I'd like to welcome everybody to the Urban Design Commission meeting. The chair and vice chair have notified us previously that they would be absent from this meeting, so we currently have a quorum of members, and we'll await somebody to make a motion to approve a chair for this meeting.
I think we ought to have Betsy Brunstetter be the chair. She's the most experienced. That's a motion.
I'll second that.
Is there? We need a vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think John should be the chair. Do you want me to sit here?
We need the roll call. Paula?
George McCuistion, Jeff Struble, Betsy Brunstetter,
Present. Sorry.
Brian Fitzsimmons, Matt Guillory, Long Nguyen, John Robinson. You have a quorum.
Okay, that's great. Next item on the docket is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion? And a second?
Move approved.
And a second. That's Robinson and Guillory. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. There are no cases withdrawn. There is a continuance request. Do we have to approve that? It's been a long time since I've done a continuance. Do I have a...
Michael, do you want to say anything about...
Yeah, this item was continued from your last meeting on September 24th, and the Commission had a variety of issues with the composition and design of the structure and wanted to continue it, offer the applicant an opportunity to come back with an alternate proposal. They had a very tight window to be able to submit in time to be back on your agenda today, and unfortunately they were not able to meet that window, and therefore they are requesting a continuance to your November meeting, which is November 19th. And they have, in fact, already submitted revised plans in time for that meeting, so we'll be prepared to bring it back to you at that time if you continue it today.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for continuance?
Move to continue.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Brian Fitzsimmons has joined us. The next item is the consent docket. Is there anyone here that needs to speak particularly about the consent dockets, especially this consent docket items, especially against any of the consent docket items? Any questions from the committee on the consent docket items? Do we have a motion on the consent docket?
Move we approve the consent docket.
Okay, that was a John and Long motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Matt, are you here? Did you say yeah? Okay. Any opposed? The consent docket is approved. The cases for an individual consideration, item A, 811 Northwest 8th in the Cottage District. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
I'm Vincent Lee for Northline, 811 Northwest 8th.
You want to tell us a little bit about your project?
We would like to build the same duplex that we have built next door. We have looked at it. I know the concern of the committee last time was if we looked at whether we could rebuild it financially. And in order for we closed on the property last week, and in order for the financials to work, we need to make it a multifamily. And doing a multifamily on a 100-year-old foundation just wasn't an option for us.
Okay, Michael, do you want to tell us something about it?
Yeah, again, this was on your agenda on the meeting on the 24th. It is a replica with a flipped floor plan of the duplex that was approved in 2012 and recently completed. You may remember from the last meeting, Chairman McQuiston is not here, but there were some questions raised by him as well as some other commissioners with respect to a couple of factors with respect to this proposal, one of them being the demolition of the existing residence, in that there, in the words of the applicant, there were no significant structural issues with the existing structure, and so I think the commission had some concerns or questions about whether or not there was any consideration given to trying to preserve that building and rehabilitate it. And then secondly, the commission voiced some concerns with respect to having this new building, if you get past the demolition issue, that the new building is identical to the building next door, and I think there was some concerns on the part of expressed on the part of the commission that they didn't want to have a monotonous pattern set of architecture on any one block, in particular in the cottage district. And therefore, there was, I think, some hope or some questions that they had for the applicant with respect to what he can do to differentiate it in some fashion from the existing building next door.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael. Do we have any comments or questions from the committee? You want this stuff?
That's okay. Is that working?
Yes.
Okay. I'm probably the one who brought up the concern about probably both of those concerns, establishing a precedent of demolition and building back new, and that precedent's already been set in the cottage district. And the concern is what gets put back, is it better or add to the character of the district and what was already there? Can you tell us a little bit about the motivation for building an exact replica of a building that's already right next door?
Well, one half of it is my business partner's next door, and this half will be mine. One half will be mine. So we're retaining it. We're not selling it, and it's just the design that we always envisioned when we initially built it. It was actually a design that we got out of Dallas, and the architect that originally drew it, there's two of them like that.
The two duplexes side by side?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's in reverse, so it's not the same. They'll be offset the way we're doing it, but it's just the design that we envisioned when we initially built the first one.
Is there a long-term goal to do this over and over again?
No, that would be the last multifamily that we build on 8th Street. It'll be a completely different architect for the new one.
Are they, they're all for sell, speculative sell, is that correct?
No. The new ones that we build later, we'll build some spec homes later, but this one, the new one that we're building, half of it is for me, and the other half will be for sale.
Okay. You're building a home nearby, so you're going to live in two homes? Or?
The house that we're building on the corner is of family members.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what did you say? The house in the corner is what?
We're building a house on 828 Northwest 8th, right up the corner, and that's a family member's that I'm building for him. We do have an offer out on all the church properties directly to the west, which is 3 buildings, and if we come to a contract there, I'll build all single families there.
I definitely see what Brian is talking about as far as too much duplication. However, it's probably not that different than the Ellison building that's going in on 9th Street, as long as it stops somewhere.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, I definitely understand that.
Yeah, we thought it was
Things
much like
start
the Lisbon
looking-
lofts, where it's kind of all same, but they're all just offset a little bit different. But the Lisbon lofts on 9th Street you're speaking about? James Ellison's? Yeah. So we didn't think it was much different than what he's doing.
Yeah, if you had come to us to have all of this done in one big swatch, would we feel differently about it, I guess is the question. Any other comments, questions? Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this? Do we have a motion, one way or the other? Okay, we've got to either ask a question or make a motion.
In the ordinances that disallow this, I don't know that it meets necessarily the intent of the ordinance of street vitality and that sort of thing, but it's not strictly prohibited. So.
Michael, do you have anything else to support it or not?
No, we put it before you in that it does meet the applicable guidelines and regulations.
It does?
Yes, except for the couple of items that we highlighted. I think they have the 24-inch threshold issue, and then the other issue was the stucco and the lack of expression of joints, which was not done on the existing building next door and was not raised as an issue in that report from 2012.
Did the committee actually see that piece?
Yes.
Okay.
It's one of the first cases that was approved when I came here.
Okay. Do you remember that, Brian? Yeah, I thought it was a staff approval. Regardless, it's done. And,
Well, they had a Queen Anne home with a dome that was
oh, the
collapsed.
demolition went through?
Yeah, so the demolition and the house came through together, just
Oh.
like this.
Okay. Well, we haven't fully vetted the demolition, so do we have any comments about the demolition? We were talking about, kind of talking around the demolition before, and that really is the first piece that needs to be approved. Do we have to vote on those separately?
No, it can all be done in one action. You can separate it if you want, I suppose.
Does anyone have any issues on the demolition?
The cottage district has kind of got two things that are sort of mutually exclusive, it seems to me. There aren't that many good old structures there. I don't know what other commissioners think, but I've noticed this in some of the other ordinances. The ordinances are trying to be flexible enough that we don't stifle progress. It concerns me, though, that if one of those houses was a very important house, as historians go, you almost have to either draw the line as what can be taken out and make a clear line, or you have to wrestle with this every time somebody wants to build a house in that district. And over in the Paseo district, they're building bungalows. You know, they're building back the bungalows. You know, I think it's kind of nice. On the other hand, I like what's going on in the cottage district. And it's a difficult, I'm ambivalent because I don't have a clear line in the ordinance. And I think Paseo's got some of those issues as well. I think some of these other districts have the same issues. So it gets down to who's sitting at the table. I think that's not good legislation, good regulation.
Thank you for those words of wisdom, John.
Well, I would like to see us study some of these things and make some, make some hard decisions that are based on, you can't make a decision like this, make a good decision on an issue like this in a few minutes of conversation. I'd like to know what some of the rest of you think. I'm willing to be persuaded one way or another, but I don't. That could be if that was a 100-year-old house, I'd have a problem tearing it down if it was still sound. Is it 100 years old? Yeah.
Brian, since you live there, I mean, in that area, and you've seen a lot of the houses come and go, how does this stack up with many of the other?
I haven't been in this one from the outside. It's probably in slightly better shape than anything we've approved demolition on before.
What do you think about, is Cottage going to just go all the way with hot new houses, which I think are great?
Oh, it's looking that way. It looks like the motivation now is
pretty much
profit and sell and see how quick we can build down the road. But
that changes my opinion about it.
That's what's starting to happen. So.
So the contrast in size is 1,100 square feet versus, what's the new house?
4,100.
4,100?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a lot more opportunity for density. I mean, we've got so many gives and takes here that I'm not exactly sure what to do with this.
Well, we can't stop it. The ordinances don't allow us to stop it.
That's right.
So we
got to make a motion one way or the other.
I share some of the concerns about the precedent of duplicating the exact house right next to each other. Can you walk us through all the ways, if a pedestrian is driving down the street, all the ways in which the second one would be different?
It would just be in reversed order. So the current one, the west side is pushed back, and on the new one, the east side we push back, and the center will be aligned in the middle.
And other than that, it would be same color, same everything?
Same color, the mailboxes will all be individual, their own colors. That would differentiate the homes.
Part of my concern is, like I said, the precedent. What happens next time someone comes in and wants to do 2 or 3 in a row that are identical? If we've set the precedent that that's acceptable for the district, it's going to be difficult to put it back, to reverse that.
So what you're saying is that on the existing house that's there, the part that comes closer to the street is on the right-hand side. And when you go to the next site, this one that we're looking at right now, the part that comes closest to the street would be on the left-hand side.
Yes.
So kind of like a mirror.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that concerns me, and I don't know if it kind of looks like, and I didn't notice this when I was over there the other day, is the lack of expansion and rustication joints. And we have actually picked on this before, so it's not a new thing, but does your back wall that is depicted in the west elevation, it really doesn't have any construction joints?
No, ma'am. That wasn't required of us last time, and we just wanted them to match. So,
Okay. Well, there's some requirements as far as construction is concerned.
oh, yes, sir. It's half stucco, yes, sir. Not even
So
stucco.
the existing house has 0 joints in it?
No.
It's not going to wear well.
It's Portland cement stuff.
Yes, sir.
It'll follow.
There are construction standards that would discourage that. In Oklahoma, on our soil, the kinds of extreme temperatures we get to, I think it's a bad idea. Technically, I think it is. I understand, aesthetic, I guess, but that is an issue.
Well, despite the fact, would you be willing to at least put some joints in this one?
Yeah.
That is part of the ordinance.
Michael, do you have any larger pictures of the existing building, other than these little tiny ones that are in the, or do you, Vincent,
I'm sorry?
have any larger photographs of the existing
No, ma'am.
building?
I'm sorry.
Anything, Michael?
Putting it up on your screen.
Okay.
This is the best we have.
What happens to those rigid materials when there's any kind of movement, they crack over a period of time, and that would either be thermal expansion or it could be from natural movement of the site, or, I suppose, as well as any sort of movement, they would crack. And when they do, they start working back and forth, increasing, you got water in the wall. And I wonder what this will look like, 20 years. We have a block.
John, what is isn't it like 200 square feet or is it 100 square feet? Okay. There is a standard that
And that's typically the maximum warrantable. So you might, just for
Okay.
your own protection, you might have an unwarrantable stucco job.
Okay. I mean, Massini Construction was the one who built it, and Ken Fitzsimmons is the one who designed, who reversed the layouts for me. And I just followed both of their advices. So,
Well, you might visit with them about
Okay.
that, because all three of us are architects, and so
Okay.
we're aware of that, and I know Ken is probably aware of that as well, as is, I mean, really, ultimately, the person that installed it should have been
okay.
very aware of it. Anything else, guys?
Is it in our purview to make a conditional approval on that sort of an issue, technical issue?
Yes, yes.
Well, are you looking for a motion?
Yes, I am.
I will make a motion that we approve it with the stipulation that joints be installed according to the best standards of the industry.
Can we have that brought back to the staff, so at least the staff can review the jointing.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have a second? Anyone? Do we have a second?
I can second my own.
No, you can't do that, John. Sorry. Okay, the second was Long. All in favor? Okay, the guys that made the motion, are you all in favor?
Aye.
On? And Matt?
I'm the only
That
guy that
was a
voted yes?
tentative. No, Long said aye.
Oh.
And Matt has a tentative, I don't know what I want to do here. You say nay? Okay, Brian said nay. And I'm going to make I'm going to say yes. So is that enough to carry it? You've been approved. Please bring your jointing back to the staff.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Okay, guys. The next item is item B, 1427 Northwest 26th Street. Is the applicant present?
Sam Gresham, architect and owner as well. I didn't know this property was in a UDC, or urban district, a design district, so it was a surprise. Got that from plan review, but it's a group of 5 duplexes. They're very simple. There's not a, and it designed to fit the context of the neighborhood, that vocabulary of the, the arts and crafts sort of style has been employed. There are 5 one-bedroom, or 10 one-bedroom units. The house that you see, there's 2 houses existing on the property. One is it's right, well, if you could see the photos there. The house that you have purview over is right behind a house that fronts on 26th Street. So it's that one right there, yeah. Building D, I think. It's not really going to be visible from the street. It doesn't really have any, you could see it from the parking lot of the adjacent restaurant, but otherwise it's fairly inconspicuous.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out, do we have a, Michael, could you bring up the area map and show us a little bit and kind of blow it up?
Which parking lot is that next to?
Grand House Chinese Restaurant.
Okay.
Okay, I actually love this kind of development. I just don't know if I have enough information.
What do you need to know?
I'd like to... Okay, the part that appears from the street is on the south side, correct?
Appears on the street. If you could see it, you won't be able to see it, actually. Yes, the answer is yes. The house that's in front of it actually blocks your view. There's a house at 1421 Northwest 26th. It's also adjacent to the parking lot.
If you'll look at your monitors, the house that's in front of the house that's, first of all, the UD district boundary runs down the west side of this property at 1421 Northwest 26th.
Uh-huh.
And the cursor is on the part of that property where the duplex unit that is under your purview is located. It's right behind the existing house.
So is that all we will vote on? Is that one particular house?
Yeah, it's
technically
one
that we
unit
can-
out of the 5, it's one building out of the 5 buildings that are proposed. The rest of the site to the west of this line that runs north-south through the property is outside the UD district boundary. So when you look at the site plan that you have in your hand,
So apartment 5 and apartment 6, building D, actually, the back is actually facing the Grand House parking lot. and
that's
It's
correct.
the west elevation on this thing.
yes.
And the front of it looks like the east elevation.
Yeah,
Oh, is that marked that way? Oh, it
Yeah,
sure
it
is.
probably has
I'll
to
be
do with the other
darned.
buildings, but,
No, there's 5 of them. This was
Yep,
opposite.
right.
It's on the other end of the property.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, they're identical.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right.
So-
In this sheet, the west elevation is mismarked as well, it's the east elevation, this elevation with the 2 windows on the back, that is the east elevation. And then the one that's marked as the east elevation here at the top where the doors are, that is in fact the west elevation facing away from the parking lot.
so is this a PED or
No, it's zoned R4.
it's zoned R4?
The property is zoned R4, yeah.
The staff recommendation for the sidewalk, is that not part of city requirements with or without zoning?
It hasn't been, but I would agree to put those in. I told Michael that I would do that, so.
Some districts have a code requirement for a sidewalk installation, particularly downtown. In other districts, like Bricktown, it's a guideline. It's suggested that you put in a sidewalk. In urban design, there's no mention of a requirement or a guideline. So this application was actually cited for the consent docket on today's agenda, but because we added the condition, we had to put it on your items for individual consideration. And we did discuss this condition with the applicant previously, and he's agreed to go ahead and put it in. We felt it was important. The only guideline that really speaks to this issue is the one that talks about the vitality of the streetscape, and we felt it was important. There was, when you go out there, I went out to take the photographs, you can see there are remnants of what was a sidewalk along the front of this entire property. Obviously, we only have jurisdiction over the property at 1421, because that's the only piece that is, I guess, the eastern third of the site is in the UD district, but I believe the applicant is proposing to install the sidewalk along the entire frontage of the project.
Any questions? Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve on condition that they're
Sidewalks?
do a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Second.
And we-
All in favor? That was a Fitzsimmons and Guillory motion. The next item is 2412 North Ollie. Is the applicant present? Flown in from Florida or something?
Phil Fitzgerald from 3900 Northwest 39th Street, 38th Street.
You want to tell us about your project?
I'm Phil Fitzgerald, Fitzgerald Associates Architects. I'm representing Dan Holliker and Claudia Camus. They currently own a building on Ollie, which is an old substation built in the mid-1900s. Was it 1949? 1911. And it's been vacant for many years. They are looking to do a small addition to it and turn it into a yoga studio and ultimately a residence. And so we've been working with staff to come up with a site plan that would be approved by the UDC. And we've received comments from Michael. And Michael, is it appropriate for you to make the comments and then us respond to them, or should we just go through them?
Well, I do want to point out, first of all, that we distributed a memo to the commission yesterday morning that provided some clarity and refinement to the recommendations that are included in the staff report today. These revisions to our recommendations are predicated on a meeting that I had with Mr. Fitzgerald last Thursday, which was actually the first opportunity we had to get together after we initially reviewed the project and made a series of comments on it. As a result of that meeting, we had a little bit of back and forth, and we also did see at that meeting a revised site plan different from the one you have in front of you today that has been modified to show one less parking stall, and as a result of the reduction of that parking stall, some of the other things that we expressed concern about have fallen into place with respect to the landscape buffer along the front of the parking lot on Northwest 24th, as well as a landscape strip along the west side adjacent to Ollie. I can review the memo with you if you'd like to indicate the changes we've made to our recommendations, if you have any questions or concerns about why we modified our recommendation. But in essence, as a result of the meeting we had on Thursday, I think that we're all on the same page moving forward on this project. We are still recommending approval of it. We do believe that there are some sections of the SPUD that need to be corrected or revised before it gets to Planning Commission. And as I understand it, it is scheduled for Planning Commission at tomorrow's meeting. So I'm not sure. We're going to coordinate with Development Services staff to make sure that whatever action you take on this case is presented in whole to the Planning Commission so they're aware of what your recommendations are. I believe Mr. Fitzgerald does have a copy of the revised site plan that does show the reduction in the parking stalls and the addition of the landscape strips on both the front and the side. But unless any of you want me to review our revisions to our recommendations, I think we're prepared to support the recommendation of the staff report as modified by yesterday's memo.
I might mention that the intent is to keep the existing building completely intact, not destroy any of the ceramic insulators anywhere in the building, take the water from the existing building, drain it onto the new roof, and take it out to the alley behind. The building is completely architecturally separated from the character of the existing building, so as not to intrude on any of the architecture of the existing structure. It's the owner's intent to leave up the 6-gauge chain link fence, which is it's 11 foot tall with barbed wire on the top of it, and has some pretty interesting old gates that we would like to maintain. We have agreed with staff to reduce to take the fence down to 8 feet, but the owner would like to maintain the character of that old fence. The structural H members of the fence and the pipe columns are still as good today as they were when they were built. And there's quite a bit of vines of the trumpet vine growing on the east side that faces the Dove Academy. We believe we've met the same parking setbacks on the north side of 24th Street with landscaping that Dove Academy has. We have also created a landscape buffer on the west side, small 3-foot strip to accommodate the west side. There's one thing we would like to, and I don't know if we can accommodate this today, but I've been vigilant in trying to talk the owners to someday have in the SPUD an allowable carport built for someday. Not, they don't want to build one, but I said, well, someday somebody may want to build a carport out there. And I don't know if that's a part of this application, but I would like to make that application to the SPUD tomorrow. And Lance was going to be here. We talked to Lance and JJ about this, and they were supposed to be here to make any modifications that we needed to make today for that hearing tomorrow. I do have a revised site plan it has 4 spaces, more and more landscaping than that one does. I'd be glad to share with you if you're interested in seeing it. But it's 8.5 by 11.
Just to put it out there, I'm not really crazy about carports, and we have pretty much not been really excited about carports in past votes, just to,
Okay. You know, I think with the proper character, because of the contemporary edition, that a carport could certainly could be well done.
well, if you're not ready to do it right now,
No,
this
not
this is, all has to be done within, what, a year?
I understand it would have to come back before design review.
Yeah, this is, again, just the recommendation from the commission to the planning commission on the SPUD itself. Mr. Fitzgerald did also simultaneously file an application for a certificate of approval, but we did not bring it to you today because we didn't know what rules to review it against. So
Okay.
until the SPUD itself goes through the process and it gets approved by both the planning commission and the city council, we won't be able to bring that CA back to you. But at this time, this kind of gives you a sense of what they're trying to do. There's an addition of 525 square feet on the east side of the existing building that will be proposed, and I don't expect much will change from that as a result of the adoption of the SPUD. I think what Mr. Fitzgerald is asking for the opportunity to have the commission consider is just to have the option of adding a carport to the language in the SPUD that would allow him at a future date to add that at some time, which if it were allowed and if they did decide to pursue it, would have to come back through the review process again for your consideration in terms of adding the carport at a later date. One thing I do want to point out is typically on a lot like this, there's a 25-foot setback, and that would be measured from the frontage along Northwest 24th Street, so that would chew into quite a bit of the carport. But again, because they are submitting and proposing a SPUD, they can modify those regulations however they felt was necessary to accommodate a carport on the front of the lot over the parking stalls.
And to your point about the carport, it seems like if you tried to put a garage on there, it would close in that space too much, and so it would be kind of a heavy element, and so that's why I thought...
I think it totally depends on the design, but if including it as a part of the language of the SPUD would make them, the owner, feel like they had the right to do a carport regardless of the design. We look at carports and they're in a number of different designs, and they don't, some of them are nice and some of them are pretty bad.
Yeah, certainly, I agree, yeah. And again, they're not asking to build a carport in this project, but I felt that it would someday, if it were my home, I'd want to have cover over my car.
Brian?
But is the carport within this language of the SPUD excluded?
No, it is not included. This is something I...
Maybe a moot issue.
The problem is if they ever tried to do it later, they can't. It's hard to change the SPUD, and I've made that point that one of the difficult things they've got in Oklahoma City is to ever try to change the SPUD, and to try to add that language later would be difficult. And so that's my only reason for doing it, is it would be very difficult to change that later. It would still have to come before this committee for approval of design, so.
I don't recall seeing a lot of language in SPUDs that were that specific about carports, but it's been a while since I've been on planning commission.
In this, I can't say with confidence, but carports and garages and things like that are detached. Those are accessory or secondary uses, not necessarily written into the allowed use group.
I don't think it's the issue of whether a carport would be allowed or not. I think the issue in this case is, given the location of the parking lot, it would be in violation of the setbacks. Because the setback in the SPUD is 25 feet. So they would have to write an exemption.
They could
I think
change
we'd
the
be okay,
setback
because
if
I think
Yeah.
the carport would be farther back than 25 feet, so it might be okay.
Well-
I think they would end up I think those first 3 or 4 spaces would go away and turn into grass, and
Okay,
if that would be a home.
I was under the impression you were going to put a carport over all 4 stalls.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was just thinking about for a home.
I would be
That's a good
okay with
point.
changing the setbacks to give flexibility for placement of any future structure, frankly.
So what you're looking for today is a
not necessarily approval, but for a recommendation to the Planning Commission. Is that correct?
On the SPUD, correct. And we've provided a series of recommendations for you in our, the last page of the staff report in areas where we feel like the SPUD needs some clarification or refinement. And then we followed that up with a memo yesterday that has some minor revisions to those recommendations and the addition of a new recommendation, which is revising the parking section of the SPUD to reduce the parking requirement that they've placed on themselves from 5 stalls down to 4 because they can't fit 5.
Yeah, I didn't show a van accessible space, I showed car accessible space, and so we needed to lose a space and also add a little more parking to the north side, landscaping to the north.
So you would end up with a total of 4 spaces at the end of the day?
Say that again?
You would end up with a total of 4 spaces at the end of the day?
Yes.
The recommendation of the landscape, tell me a little bit about the existing fence. How old is it? Do we know?
It's really old. I don't know that we could say it's original, but we saw there's another substation over on about 6th and right off the Centennial Expressway, has the same fence, same brick, and it was built about the same time. But I can't tell you how old that fence is, but it's really, really old.
The fencing on the site right now is there's a gate and a fence along this area here, and it's about 6 foot tall.
There's actually an operable gate. I didn't realize that. There's an operable gate on the east side for them to take the transformer in and out. Some of that large pad. And again, those large pads are, really nice to landscape or put, work with art or use as patios. But we really felt those were, important to stay. But there actually is an operable gate on that west side. Didn't realize it until later on. But again, we're trying to leave everything, and that's a 6-foot fence on the east and along the north. And it's an 11-foot fence with barbed wire on top of that along the east and south.
I think it's great
Yes,
that
that's
they're
right.
doing this project. This is really cool.
Yeah.
I guess one question, I'm getting a little fuzzy here. Are you writing into your SPUD that there is going to be a requirement of 4 spaces?
We are, yes.
And then...
Well, allows for, I think we changed the word to allow 4 spaces. And we changed shall,
Okay.
we changed from
So
shall
you
to allow.
set yourself up so that you can have 4 spaces, but if you only wanted to have 2 or 1, you could do that as well?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That was an item that Michael brought up, and it says from shall to allow.
That might have been Lance, because that's not the way our
Oh, is
recommendation
that,
reads.
okay.
You might double check that, because if you're doing an office, this is not an exempt parking area, is it?
What's that?
Is this area part of 23rd or Class?
It's 23rd, so it's exempt from
Oh,
parking
it's exempt
altogether.
from parking.
Gotcha.
But what he's doing is he's paving a large portion of the site, so he wants the ability to have paving. Okay. This is going to be a really large motion, Michael. Does anybody want to give it a shot?
By the way, John, we're using...
John's saying, no, I'm not going to do another motion. No, that's not my job. Hey, Matt, go for it.
I only
I do have one question before motion. I'm not crystal clear on what's going on with the fence. I heard 2 different heights, but the tall
owner-
fence is going to be lowered,
The owner has agreed to take it down to 8 feet.
and the barbed wire...
And all the barbed wire come off, yes.
Okay. So all the fencing will be either 6 or 8 feet?
Yes.
And the reason I keep asking about the fence is if it's a really cool existing fence at 11 feet, I'm not taking the barbed wire seems like probably a good idea to get rid of that, changes the message. But do you force them to shorten an existing fence?
I would agree to that.
I mean, it's an existing fence, they wouldn't have to go to get a variance for it, would they?
Yeah, if
We
they-
really would like to have done that, but that was a staff recommendation.
Yeah, it would need, well, I mean, it's existing, so you wouldn't need a variance to keep it. It's just an existing non-conforming structure.
I was just concerned about if you lower the fence, what does that do to the gates? If they want to keep some
The gates
special
are on the
gates.
6-foot side. It's really just the
okay.
east and the south that has the 11-foot fence with the barbed wire on top of it. But we did find, and Dan found this, there is a thread at one time, so you could take down half that fence, but then you've got to cut the poles, you've got to do a lot of work. And I think with all the horn of plenty up there, really, it really
Your client
looks
would like to
nice.
say something, Phil.
What's the property that's immediately to the east of this?
Dove Academy. Dove Academy, the school.
We have someone here.
Sorry, Dan Hollick. I just wanted to mention that on the south side, there is a gate, and it is 11 feet tall. And it's a dual functional gate, too. It's the same structure as the one on the north side.
Okay.
We don't have any pictures of the gate or fence.
It may be in one of these
It'd
photos.
be hard to see.
That's your photos. Where are mine?
Unless anyone, objects, I would be okay with removing
Yeah, this,
that requirement of lowering to 8 feet. It's existing.
Can we zoom in on that a little bit?
okay.
I agree with that, Brian.
There you go. Yeah.
So here, where it comes off the building along the alley, and this is your 11-foot section on the south side of the property, and then it turns along the parking lot to the north towards 24th, and I think the gate that is right in this area right here, and there is barbed wire on top of this.
What's your feeling toward the barbed wire?
I don't mind doing the barbed wire. It would, to maintain the look, it would be nice if you put straight wire in the barbed wire hole. You don't really need barbed wire, it's just the look that we're trying to maintain.
We just recommended the reduction in height because the code says 8 feet, so.
Well, I would be okay with taking that recommendation out of it, that entire fence recommendation, and let that be maybe part of design review later, not necessarily part of the SPUD. So I'll make a motion, I don't know, how do you do this?
What would you accept,
probably
staff
the staff.
recommendations except for the barbed wire?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve, is it approving or recommending?
Recommending to the planning.
Yeah, okay. Make a motion to recommend for approval to the Planning Commission, approval of the SPUD, incorporating all staff recommendations, excluding the recommendation of E regarding Section 1.6 fencing, or I.6. Yeah, okay.
Second.
Okay, we have it's Simmons and Robinson motion to approve to send it.
Need a correction.
Yeah. The recommendations in this,
The recommendation dated October 21st, 2014.
thank you, Brian.
And in that recommendation, did we clarify, is there a requirement of 4 parking spots, or?
There's not a requirement. This would allow for.
So we would change the language in the new recommendation I to read this SPUD may provide up to
Yeah.
4 parking spaces.
Good catch.
Okay, so,
Let's try this again. Make a recommendation for, now I forgot the opening. Recommendation
to the planning.
to the Planning Commission to approve this SPUD 788 with the staff recommendations dated October 1st, 21st, 2014, with the following revisions to that. And then strike section E relating to the section I.6 fencing, those recommendations, and change in section I, the SPUD shall, change shall to may provide 4 parking spaces.
And a second. John?
Yeah, second.
Okay, Fitzsimmons, Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks very much. We'll see you later.
Okay. John, I think we're going to use EFS with Panzer mesh.
Okay, that was all of the items for individual consideration. Thank you guys for being here, and it looks like a wonderful project. Administrative approval report, I think we're going to skip right over that and let people go to the website. There is an item going to the Board of Adjustment on October 16th.
Yes, it went on the 16th, and that variance for the alternative surface on the parking lot at the project in Blackwelder and 15th, along with the requirement for restriping, was approved with the variance by the BOA.
Okay. Any comments from the Planning Department?
I don't think we have anything for you today.
Okay, you sure? Any comments from the commission? I enjoyed doing this again. This was fun. The next meeting is November 19th. And how many applications do we have, Michael?
We have Mr. Pickering's return of the Paseo project, and we also have a house in the Cottage District
Okay.
with a demolition.
So only two items for individual
To the
consideration?
best of my recollection, yes.
Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.